Hello everybody, I'm Rusty. I want to welcome you to Island Breeze Tropicals. So today we're going to be asking the question, what do we have to know when we go out to buy a bromeliad when it's in flower? So you know what? The sun is shining, the island breeze is blowing. It's time that you and I got growing. Come on, let's have some fun. And why don't we take a look at what we have to know when we're going to buy a bromeliad that is in flower. So if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. It's great to have you with us. If you like what you see, could you do me a favor and hit that like button down there? And why don't you become part of our bromeliad family and become a subscriber? Thanks a lot. Now, why don't we get to today's video? Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at bromeliads that are in flower, that have an inflorescence like this, but we're going to be asking the question, what do we have to know in order to buy the best one? Now, in general, we're going to be buying this for display purposes. You know, you're going to put it on your deck or on a table or in your lanai, and you want to be able to choose something that's nice and vibrant, but also something that's going to be as long-lasting as you can get. Now, there's another reason we're probably going to be buying bromeliads that already have an inflorescence, because although not all genera do this, most will put out pups at that time. So we're going to go into that a little bit, but what we're going to talk about is how do you choose the best inflorescence, the one that's going to be the most vibrant and the one that's going to last you the longest. So why don't we take a tour and take a look? Now, this is a really good example as to what you look for when you want to purchase a bromeliad based on its inflorescence. This is called Ichmea Blue Tango. It's a really famous one here in Florida and in the States, and I can tell you that it really does last. This will last about 2 to 3 months depending on the exposure, but here is what you look at. And I want to take a look at the color here on this inflorescence. We're going to go on in here and take a look, and I think that's a really good representation of the color that you want to look for in your inflorescence. See where it's really, really vibrant? The blues are blue, and the red or pink or magenta or whatever that is really vibrant too, and that's what you want to look for when you are going to buy your bromeliad for its inflow. And so on these blue tangos, there's not one that's any better than the other, but what I try to do is I try to find the one out of all of the ones that are for sale on any bromeliad that's got an inflow that are the youngest. And that way you're going to have them for the longest amount of time when you take them home for display. So Guzmanias are probably, I would say that they sell more than any bromeliad when it comes to the inflow. And I'm showing you one right here that is further along. I'm going to try not to jerk the camera. I'm holding it. But if you take a look right down in here, see that? That is the true flower structure. These right here are called bracts. Now, we've done a video on what an inflorescence is. I really suggest that you look at it, but I'm going to try and get down in there without fuzzing it all up, and we'll take a look and see if we can see those flower structures any better. And you can see them right down there in the bracts, and those are flower structures. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that this particular Guzmania is further along, and so therefore the flower is not going to last as long as the next one that I'm going to show you. So these Guzmanias, as you can see, the inflow is pretty tall on them, but we're going to go down here and look right down into the inflow, and look, if you look into the bracts, you can see that we don't have any flower structures starting yet. So what that means is that these Guzmanias right here that you see are still pretty young and are going to give you some more time when you take them home to enjoy them. And then we have these Guzmania patricias. I've shown these guys before too. And you can see that even the bracts have not fully opened. I'm going to come on over here, and this is a really good example of a very young inflow. And I'm trying to get my shadow in here because the sun is coming up and kind of bleaching things. But if you take a look at this inflorescence right there, and you can see that that's pretty closed. And then you come on over here, and you can see that that one has started to open up. So that's a good indication as to age. Now, all of these are really, really young. They are younger than any of the Guzmanias that I just showed you, and so that makes it a really good buy. The other Guzmania that we just showed you that is also red, it's not a patricia, but that's not a bad buy, but this is going to give you slightly longer time to enjoy it, like if you take it inside or you put it on your deck or your patio, and you're going to just get a longer amount of time that the inflorescence will be there for you to enjoy. Okay, so this shows you a Guzmania inflow that is really far along. This is not in a sales area, and you probably will not see a Guzmania where the inflow is this old. Hopefully you don't in a sales area, but if you do, this is not one that you want to buy. The plant can be very, very healthy, and if you look down there, you can see it has an offset, it has a pup, and if you want to buy it for that reason, fine and dandy. But remember that any bromeliad that has an inflorescence that arises from the center of the plant is monocarpic. So what you're looking at is the end of the active growing and reproductive cycle of this plant, and it's going to put all of its energy down there where that pup is. So if you're buying this for its inflow, this would not be the plant that I would buy. Okay, so here's one thing that you want to look for when you are buying your bromeliad. If you're buying it for the inflorescence, look for the best color. That will indicate that that inflorescence is the younger of all the inflows, and I'm going to show you a couple that are a little bit further along. This, by the way, is Ichmea del Cielo. And if you take a look at this Ichmea del Cielo, you can see that the color is somewhat faded. That means that this inflow came out before the one that I just showed you, and it means that, well, it's going to give out a little bit sooner than the one we just looked at. And this Del Cielo had an inflow that came out much earlier than the others, and as you can see, this is starting to look not so nice. So this is another view, and that right there is the Del Cielo that is the newest, and you can see even the one in back of it just doesn't look as vibrant. So if you want your inflorescence to last the longest wherever you put it at your house, well, you need to buy the one that has the most vibrant color. Now this is an inflow that shows you really how the progression has gone. The sun is coming up and it really makes this glow. I mean, it is orange, but it's really orange now. So I want you to take a look right there, and let me zoom in there and see if we can do it without jerking this around a little bit. So right there, if you can see, those are flowers that have not opened. But take a look below and you can see that the flower structures down here erupted in sequence, or matured in sequence, probably a better term. And you come on up here, and that indicates that this inflorescence is just about at the end of what I would call its vibrancy. Now, does that mean that it's not going to last? No, this particular inflorescence is going to last probably another month, maybe 2. So if you take a look, I'm going to zoom back here, it's still a pretty big inflow on this plant. It still does have a lot of impact. But again, if you're buying it for the inflorescence, this might not be the one that you buy specifically for that. But I'm going to come on over here and take a look. And there's a good reason to buy this plant, because it's got a pup. So if you're buying it only for the inflorescence, I would say probably not. But there are other mitigating factors, and that's one of them. So take a look and see whether or not your plant has got a lot of pups. And remember, when they have an inflorescence, that is part of the reproductive sequence, and so is that pup. So you're liable to find more pups on most of your bromeliads, not all, but most of your bromeliads pup about the same time or slightly before the time that they will get an inflow. So look for inflows, look for the inflorescence if you're looking for pups, and chances are you're going to see a lot more pups than normal when they are in inflorescence. So when we talk about buying a bromeliad that has an inflow, that has an inflorescence that's in flower, and we're doing it primarily so that we can propagate it from the pups, there is one genus that you might want to think twice about. Now look, what we're talking about is really when does the plant pup, and this is an Alcantaria. This is Alcantaria imperialis. We've have a video about this genus, and we went into it then that this particular genus pups early in its life and not later in its life, like some of the bromeliads that we just showed you. A lot of the bromeliads wait until they are mature to pup, but Alcantarias, some of them anyway, don't do that. And if you take a look, you can see the pups right here. Now this is a younger plant. This is in a 9-inch pot, okay, so it's not very big. Let me show you a big one. So this is an adult. It's an Alcantaria imperialis, but it's a hybrid. So you can see it's got some nice silver color to it, and it is pretty big. Now, again, there are some Alcantarias in my experience that I've seen pups on when they have an inflorescence, but I can tell you, at least with the imperialis and also with odorata, we've done videos, by the way, on both of those, and you ought to go take a look because they are really, really nice bromeliads, nice and large too. But if you go to buy them and they have an inflorescence, well, chances are, at least with those two Alcantarias, you're not going to be getting any pups. Now, when they get to be this big and you get an inflow, that makes such a statement. So by all means, buy it. It will look absolutely beautiful, but you should know that it probably is not going to get pups and would have gotten pups when it was a bit younger. So it's the larger Alcantarias that are going to have the inflorescence, of course. And if you buy them for the inflorescence, which is really spectacular, unfortunately I don't have one to show you, but if you buy it for the inflorescence, fine, it's going to make a statement, but you may not get any pups. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. I just had a Regina hybrid that really started pupping after it had already come into the flowering sequence and the flower had already faded. So your results may vary, but in general, if you're going to be getting an Alcantaria like this imperialis, I know that odorata is the same, and you buy it with an inflorescence, you may not get pups. Okay, so there's another genus that you might want to buy because it's very, very popular, and that is Billbergia. And this is a really nice example. This is Billbergia Hallelujah. It doesn't have quite the purple color that it should. This is one of my hybrids as yet unnamed. And Billbergia is very, very collectible. They have this beautiful vase-like shape. It's very, very columnar. And so the architecture is really pleasing. But here's what you have to know about Billies. If you go to buy them and they have an inflorescence, got some bad news. The inflorescence really only lasts 2.5 to 3 weeks on most Billbergias. That might be why I don't have an inflorescence on these guys, because it would have passed by the time I got around to doing the video. So if you go to buy a Billbergia, by all means, they are so collectible and have such an array of different colors. They've been hybridized an awful lot. But if they get an inflorescence and you're buying it for that, if it is all the way out, generally they're pendulate, they come out, it's not going to last all that long. So buy your Billbergias for its beautiful color and architecture, and then when you get an inflorescence on one, well, by golly, that's going to be a really great bonus, albeit a short one. So, okay, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed learning how best to choose a really, really nice bromeliad that is in flower, and how to have an inflorescence just like this so that it will be the most vibrant and last you the longest. So no matter where you are, I hope your sun is shining. I hope you have an island breeze blowing. I know that you and I need to keep growing and have lots of fun. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.